The woman who learns to become still. The most dangerous thing anxiety can steal is your present, not your future, not your plans, your present. You can lose an entire morning without moving. You can sit beside cold coffee for hours. You can stare at a silent phone. You can imagine conversations that never happen. You can prepare for disasters that never arrive. And somehow, your body believes every imagined threat. Your heart races, your shoulders tighten, your breathing becomes shallow, your thoughts become louder. You call it overthinking. You call it being responsible. You call it preparing. But sometimes, you're simply suffering twice. Once in your imagination, then again in reality. And reality may never become what you feared. That is the cruelty of uncontrolled anxiety. It can make an imaginary future feel more real. It can turn uncertainty into a private emergency. It can make ordinary silence feel threatening. It can make waiting feel unbearable. It can make rest feel irresponsible. It can make calmness feel suspicious. But there is another possibility. You don't have to eliminate every anxious thought. You don't have to become emotionless. You don't have to control every outcome. You can learn something more powerful. You can learn to remain still, even while uncertainty moves around you, even while your mind demands answers, even while your heart wants reassurance. This is where radical calm begins, not with perfect circumstances, with a different relationship to uncertainty. You stop asking, how do I make sure nothing goes wrong? And you start asking, if something goes wrong, who will I become? That question changes everything, because your freedom was never inside certainty. It was inside your response. Chapter 1, The Storm Inside the Room. There is a strange moment anxiety creates. Nothing has happened, yet everything feels wrong. The room is quiet. The lights are soft. Your phone sits beside you. Outside, cars move down the street. Someone is walking a dog. A neighbor closes a door. Life continues normally, but inside your mind, something is happening. 1,000 invisible conversations are unfolding. You imagine what someone meant. You imagine what they might do. You imagine what could happen next. Then you imagine what happens after that. One thought creates another. Another creates another. Soon you're 10 steps away from reality. Your body doesn't know that. Your body responds anyway. Your chest tightens. Your stomach drops. Your hands become restless. You check your phone again. Nothing. You check again. Still nothing. Then you create an explanation. Maybe they're angry. Maybe something happened. Maybe you said something wrong. Maybe they're losing interest. Maybe you've ruined everything. Maybe this always happens. Maybe you're going to lose them. Notice how quickly the mind builds a universe. It begins with silence. It ends with catastrophe. And the strange part is this. The silence never changed. Only your interpretation changed. That distinction deserves your attention. Because anxiety often feeds on interpretation, not facts. Facts are usually smaller, much smaller. They might be. They haven't answered. The meeting is tomorrow. I don't know what happens next. The decision hasn't been made. The situation is uncertain. That's all. But the mind adds chapters. It creates motives. It predicts outcomes. It assigns meaning. It creates endings. Then it reacts to those endings. You become afraid of a future that hasn't arrived. This is why learning to separate facts matters. You don't have to argue with your thoughts. You don't have to shout at your mind. You simply ask, what do I actually know? That question is powerful. It creates distance. It puts your feet back on the floor. It separates reality from prediction. Suppose someone sends you, we need to talk. That's the fact. Your mind may immediately continue. They're angry. They're leaving. I made a mistake. This is going to ruin everything. But none of those things are facts. They are possibilities. Possibilities are not promises. A possibility deserves consideration. It does not deserve panic. That is one of the first lessons. Your mind can generate possibilities endlessly. Your job isn't to investigate everyone. Your job is to decide which deserve attention. This is emotional discipline, and emotional discipline is not suppression. Suppression says, I must not feel this. Discipline says, I feel this, but I choose my response. That's very different. The anxious thought can exist. You don't need to obey it. Fear can exist. You don't need to follow it. Uncertainty can exist. You don't need to fill it with stories. This is where calmness becomes practical. It becomes a skill, not a personality trait, not something reserved for naturally relaxed people. A skill, something you practice repeatedly. The mind that wants guarantees. Anxiety loves guarantees. It wants to know exactly what happens next. It wants certainty. It wants reassurance. It wants a perfect plan. It wants to know everyone else's intentions. It wants to know every possible outcome. It wants to eliminate surprise. But life refuses to cooperate. There are no complete guarantees. People change. Plans change. Circumstances change. Feelings change. Opportunities disappear. New opportunities appear. You can do everything correctly. Something unexpected can still happen. That isn't a failure. That's reality. The question becomes different. Instead of, how can I guarantee safety? Ask, how can I become capable of responding? That question builds strength. You stop trying to control the uncontrollable. You start strengthening what belongs to you. Your attention, your judgment, your choices, your habits, your words, your patience, your preparation, your response. These are much more useful places to invest energy. Imagine standing outside before a storm. You cannot control the weather. You can control whether the windows are closed. You can control whether you have shelter. You can control whether you're prepared. But you cannot command the sky. An anxious mind argues with the sky. A calm mind prepares for rain. That's the difference. The cost of constant anticipation. There is another problem. Anxiety can become your default posture. You start scanning constantly. You notice every change in someone's voice, every pause, every facial expression, every message, every delay, every unusual detail. Your mind becomes a security system, always watching, always searching, always asking, is something wrong? Eventually, peace feels strange. Silence feels suspicious. A normal day feels temporary. You wait for something to go wrong, and because you're waiting, you never fully experience what is going right. Think about that. You can sit at a beautiful table. Good food is in front of you. The room is warm. Someone you care about is beside you, but your mind is somewhere else. What if this changes? What if this doesn't last? What if I lose this? And suddenly, fear steals the very thing you're afraid to lose. The present moment. You cannot protect happiness by refusing to experience it. You cannot make life permanent by worrying about its ending. You cannot love someone more safely by constantly imagining losing them. At some point, you have to inhabit your life, not monitor it. Inhabit it. Feel the chair beneath you. Taste the coffee. Hear the rain. Look at the person across the table. Let the moment be enough, not forever. Just enough. The first practice. When anxiety rises, don't immediately solve it. Pause. Put both feet on the floor. Relax your shoulders. Unclench your jaw. Take one slower breath. Look around the room. Name what you can actually see. A window, a chair, a lamp, a wall. Your hands? Your phone? Then ask, what is happening right now? Not tomorrow. Not next month. Right now. This question sounds almost too simple. That's why people underestimate it. But attention is powerful. Your mind can only live somewhere. It can live inside an imagined future, or it can return to the present. You decide where it goes, not perfectly, not every second, but repeatedly. That repetition changes you. Chapter 2. The space between fear and action. Anxiety often creates urgency. Everything feels immediate. You must respond now. You must know now. You must decide now. You must fix it now. You must get reassurance now. But urgency is not always truth. Sometimes urgency is emotion wearing a uniform. It looks like responsibility. But underneath, it's fear. Fear says, do something before it's too late. Wisdom asks, does something actually need doing now? Those are different questions. Sometimes action is necessary. Sometimes waiting is wiser. The ability to tell the difference is maturity. This is where the pause becomes powerful. The pause is not weakness. The pause is space. Space allows information to arrive. Space allows emotion to settle. Space allows perspective to return. Space allows you to choose. Without the pause, anxiety chooses for you, and anxiety usually chooses speed. Fast messages, fast decisions, fast conclusions, fast assumptions, fast reactions. But fast doesn't always mean intelligent. Sometimes the most intelligent thing you can do is wait. Wait until morning. Wait until you've slept. Wait until you've eaten. Wait until you've calmed down. Wait until you know more. Wait until you can speak without trying to win. Waiting can be an act of strength. The phone on the table. Imagine this. It's late at night. The room is dark. Your phone lights up. You see a message. Your heart immediately changes. You read it once, then again. You notice one sentence. Your mind grabs it. You interpret it. You create an entire emotional story. Your fingers hover over the keyboard. You want to respond immediately. You want to explain. You want them to understand. You want reassurance. You want control. Then you stop. You put the phone down. Not forever, just for tonight. You breathe. You get ready for bed. You sleep. In the morning, the message still exists, but your mind is different. You read it again. Suddenly, the meaning seems smaller. Maybe you misunderstood. Maybe the tone wasn't what you imagined. Maybe the problem is manageable. Maybe the answer is obvious. The situation didn't change much. Your state changed. That is why emotional timing matters. Never underestimate what sleep can do. Never underestimate what distance can do. Never underestimate what silence can reveal. Not every emotional question deserves an immediate answer. You don't need to feel ready. Anxiety can also create another illusion. The illusion that confidence must come first. You think, I'll act when I feel calm. I'll decide when I'm certain. I'll move when I'm no longer afraid. But confidence often comes afterward. You act carefully. Then you discover you survived. Then your confidence grows. You don't need to eliminate fear first. You need to stop making fear the decision maker. Imagine walking into an unfamiliar room. You feel nervous. You can still walk. Your hands may feel cold. You can still speak. Your voice may shake. You can still tell the truth. Your mind may imagine failure. You can still take the next step. Calmness doesn't always mean feeling calm. Sometimes it means behaving calmly while feeling unsettled. That is a deeper form of strength. The Stoic question. There is a question that can interrupt spiraling. What belongs to me? Your actions belong to you. Your preparation belongs to you. Your words belong to you. Your effort belongs to you. Your attention belongs to you. Your values belong to you. Someone else's reaction doesn't. Their opinion doesn't. Their decision doesn't. Their timing doesn't. Their mood doesn't. Their future choices don't. The weather doesn't. The economy doesn't. The past doesn't. The passage of time doesn't. This distinction can feel liberating. You stop carrying what was never yours. Imagine holding 10 stones. Each stone represents something you can't control. Someone's opinion, someone's decision, a past mistake, a future possibility, a stranger's judgment, an uncertain outcome. You carry them everywhere. Your hands hurt, your shoulders hurt. Then you realize something. You chose to carry them. One by one you put them down. Not because they don't matter, because carrying them doesn't change them. That's the essence of control. You invest energy where energy can actually produce change. Radical calm is not passivity. Some people misunderstand calmness. They think calm means doing nothing. It doesn't. A calm person can act decisively. A calm woman can leave. She can confront. She can say no. She can make difficult decisions. She can change direction. She can protect herself. The difference is the source of the action. Panic reacts. Clarity responds. Panic says, get away from this feeling. Clarity says, what needs to happen? Panic says, make them reassure me. Clarity says, what do I actually know? Panic says, fix everything. Clarity says, what is the next useful action? Panic sees the entire mountain. Clarity takes the next step. Chapter 3. Becoming the still point. There is a point where calmness becomes more than a technique. It becomes identity. You begin to recognize yourself differently. You become the person who pauses, the person who doesn't immediately react, the person who can sit with uncertainty, the person who can say, "I don't know yet." That sentence is powerful. I don't know yet. It doesn't mean helplessness. It means honesty. You don't pretend certainty. You don't manufacture certainty. You allow reality to reveal itself. This is one of the deepest forms of emotional maturity. You stop demanding immediate answers from life. You allow some questions to remain open. The woman who doesn't chase certainty. Imagine a woman sitting alone after a difficult conversation. The conversation didn't go as planned. She feels the urge to call again. She wants to explain herself. She wants to make sure everything is okay. She wants to remove the uncertainty, but she knows something now. Her anxiety wants closure immediately. Reality doesn't owe her that. So she waits. She breathes. She makes tea. She washes the cup. She takes a shower. She goes outside. She notices the evening air. She doesn't deny her feelings. She simply refuses to turn them into commands. That is radical calm. She may still feel afraid, but she isn't controlled by fear. She can carry uncertainty. She doesn't need certainty to remain dignified. This is a profound shift. The difference between control and trust. Many anxious people believe control creates safety. Sometimes it does. Planning matters, preparation matters, good decisions matter. But excessive control creates another problem. You begin trying to manage everything. You manage conversations, you manage impressions, you manage outcomes, you manage other people's feelings, you manage timing, you manage uncertainty. Eventually, you're exhausted. Trust offers another path. Not blind trust, not naive trust, self-trust. I can handle what happens. That's different. You don't trust that everything will work out. You trust yourself to respond. That is stronger, because life may not cooperate. People may disappoint you. Plans may fail. Unexpected events may happen. You cannot guarantee the outcome, but you can become the kind of person who meets reality without collapsing. That is the goal. Not invulnerability, capacity. Anxiety and the need to know. There is something deeply uncomfortable about not knowing. Who are they talking to? What will happen? Will this work? Will they stay? Will I succeed? Did I make the right choice? What happens next? The mind hates open loops. It wants closure, so it creates answers. Even bad answers feel better than uncertainty. That's why anxious thinking can feel convincing. A negative conclusion creates certainty. I'm going to fail. At least now there is an answer. But it isn't an answer. It's a prediction. And predictions can be wrong. Instead of filling uncertainty with fear, practice leaving it open. Say, I don't know. Then, I can handle not knowing yet. That sentence may feel uncomfortable. Use it anyway. You are training your mind. The morning that belongs to you. Imagine waking tomorrow. Before touching your phone, sit quietly. The room is still. Morning light enters slowly. You can hear distant traffic. Maybe a bird outside. Your mind starts producing thoughts. You don't need to chase them. Take a breath. Feel your feet. Notice the room. Then ask, what deserves my attention today? Not everything, just what matters. Maybe it's your work. Maybe it's your health. Maybe it's one difficult conversation. Maybe it's rest. Maybe it's family. Choose. Then protect that attention. Don't give your first hour to everyone else's emergencies. Your morning establishes a direction. If the first thing you do is consume noise, your mind starts reactive. If the first thing you do is become present, your mind starts deliberate. This isn't about perfection. Some mornings will be messy. Some mornings will begin with anxiety. That's okay. The practice remains. Return again and again. The evening that doesn't need answers. The same principle applies at night. You lie in bed. Your mind suddenly becomes loud. Old conversations return. Future problems appear. You remember something embarrassing. You imagine tomorrow. You begin planning. You begin worrying. Then you tell yourself, not tonight. You don't need to solve your life in bed. Write down what needs attention tomorrow, then release it. Your mind may resist. That's normal. It has learned that nighttime is for analysis. Teach it something else. Night is for rest. Not every question needs an answer before sleep. Some answers arrive after rest. Some answers arrive after distance. Some answers arrive through experience. Some answers never arrive. You can still live well. Chapter 4. The courage to let things be uncertain. There is a hidden form of control inside anxiety. It says, if I worry enough, I can prevent pain. But worrying isn't preparation. Preparation has an endpoint. Worry often doesn't. Preparation asks, what can I do? Worry asks, what if? Preparation creates action. Worry creates repetition. You can prepare for an interview, then stop. You can prepare for a difficult conversation, then stop. You can save money, then stop. You can study, then stop. At some point, preparation becomes control-seeking. Recognize that moment, then let go. This doesn't mean becoming careless. It means knowing when enough is enough. The woman who can say, I don't know. There is enormous dignity in uncertainty. I don't know. I'll decide tomorrow. I need more information. I haven't figured it out. I'll see what happens. These sentences are not weakness. They are honest. Anxiety often hates them. It wants certainty. But reality doesn't always provide certainty. So maturity means learning to function without it. You can build a career without knowing everything. You can love someone without knowing the future. You can make a decision without knowing every consequence. You can start something without knowing whether it will succeed. Life requires incomplete information. Every meaningful decision contains uncertainty. Waiting for perfect certainty means waiting forever. Chapter 5. When the world panics. There will be moments when everyone around you becomes anxious. People start talking faster. Phones begin ringing. Opinions multiply. Everyone has a prediction. Everyone has a theory. Everyone wants an answer. The emotional temperature rises. This is when calmness becomes valuable. Not because you're smarter, because you're less reactive. You pause. You listen. You separate information from emotion. You ask, what do we actually know? That question can change a room. Facts first, interpretation second, action third, panic last. You don't need to absorb the emotional atmosphere. Other people's anxiety is not an assignment. You can care without joining the panic. You can help without becoming frantic. You can listen without surrendering your judgment. This is especially important for sensitive people. Sensitivity can be a strength, but without boundaries, it becomes absorption. You feel everyone's mood. You carry everyone's tension. You interpret everyone's silence. You become exhausted. Learn to distinguish empathy from emotional fusion. Empathy says, I understand that you're afraid. Fusion says, because you're afraid, I must become afraid. You can remain separate. That separation creates clarity. Chapter 6. The body knows before the mind. Anxiety isn't only mental. It lives in the body. Your shoulders may rise. Your breath may shorten. Your hands may become restless. Your stomach may tighten. Your face may become tense. Your attention narrows. This is why calmness sometimes begins physically. Before solving the thought, change the posture. Sit down. Lower your shoulders. Unclench your hands. Slow your breathing. Look farther into the room. Give your body evidence of safety. You aren't trying to force yourself into happiness. You're creating a pause. The body and mind influence each other. A calmer posture can create room for calmer thinking. This is simple. Simple doesn't mean useless. Most powerful practices are simple. The challenge is repetition. Chapter 7. The inner voice. Anxiety often speaks in absolutes. Always. Never. Everyone. No one. It's over. I'm doomed. I can't handle this. Listen carefully. Those words often reveal distortion. Reality is usually more precise. Instead of, everything is falling apart, say, I'm dealing with several difficult things. Instead of, I can't handle this, say, this is difficult, but I can take one step. Instead of, nobody understands me, say, I feel misunderstood right now. Language changes perspective. Your inner dialogue becomes the environment you live inside. If your inner voice is constantly hostile, calmness becomes difficult. You don't need fake positivity. You need accuracy. Accurate thoughts are often calmer. They don't exaggerate. They don't minimize. They simply describe. I am uncertain. I am disappointed. I am afraid. I don't know yet. I can decide later. I need more information. These statements create stability. Chapter 8. Don't turn anxiety into an identity. Be careful with language. Don't constantly say, I'm an anxious person. You may be experiencing anxiety. That's different. An emotion is an experience. It isn't your entire identity. You can say, I'm feeling anxious today. That leaves room for change. Tomorrow may feel different. Even an hour from now may feel different. Identity can become a prison when repeated carelessly. If you believe, this is just who I am, you may stop practicing. Instead, this is something I'm learning to handle. That creates possibility. You aren't promising perfection, you're acknowledging capacity. Chapter 9. The power of a slower response. Imagine someone criticizes you. Your first instinct is defensive. You want to respond. You want to prove yourself. You want them to understand. Pause. Take a breath. Ask, is a response necessary? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. If yes, what response serves my values? Not, what response will make me feel powerful? That's an important difference. A sharp reply can feel satisfying. A measured response can be more effective. You don't need to win every moment. You need to protect your character. Your response becomes part of who you are. Every reaction trains you. Every pause trains you too. Chapter 10. When anxiety predicts rejection. One of anxiety's favorite fears is rejection. A delayed message becomes rejection. A changed tone becomes rejection. A canceled plan becomes rejection. A disagreement becomes rejection. The mind connects everything, but people have complicated lives. They get tired. They become distracted. They have their own problems. Not every change is about you. This is important. You don't need to make yourself the center of every event. Sometimes nothing is wrong. Sometimes someone is simply busy. Sometimes a conversation is simply awkward. Sometimes a relationship changes. And even when rejection is real, you can survive it. That is the deeper lesson. The goal isn't to guarantee that nobody rejects you. That's impossible. The goal is to know rejection will hurt, and I will still be okay. That is self-trust. Chapter 11. Radical calm in relationships. Relationships can amplify anxiety. You start monitoring. When did they last reply? Why did they use that word? Why did they seem distant? What does that silence mean? You begin treating the relationship like a puzzle. But love cannot be secured through constant surveillance. You cannot think your way into permanent certainty. You can communicate. You can ask. You can observe patterns. You can set boundaries. Then you have to allow the other person to choose. That's difficult, but necessary. A healthy relationship requires two independent people, not one person constantly managing the other. You don't need to monitor every mood. You don't need to fix every discomfort. You don't need to demand reassurance every hour. Sometimes you need to breathe. Sometimes you need to return to your own life. Read, walk, work, create, rest, meet a friend, live. Your relationship is part of your life. It isn't your entire nervous system. Chapter 12. When something ends. Some anxiety comes from endings. A relationship ends, a job ends, a friendship changes, a chapter closes. You look at the empty space. Your mind immediately asks, what now? The future suddenly looks blank. That blankness feels like danger, but blankness is not always danger. Sometimes it is simply unfamiliar. You don't know what comes next. That's uncomfortable. But uncertainty can contain possibility. You don't need to rush into a new identity. You don't need to immediately replace what you lost. You can sit with the empty space. You can grieve. You can rest. You can rebuild slowly. The absence of a familiar structure can feel frightening, but it can also reveal what was hidden underneath. your own preferences, your own values, your own voice. Sometimes calmness arrives after you stop trying to restore the old life. Chapter 13. The discipline of not checking. There are behaviors that feed anxiety. Constant checking is one of them. Check the phone, check the email, check the news, check the comments, check the numbers, check the message, check again. The checking creates temporary relief. Then uncertainty returns. So you check again. That's the loop. You need to learn the difference between information and reassurance. Information helps you act. Reassurance temporarily quiets fear. If you already have enough information, another check may not help. It may simply restart the anxiety. Sometimes the strongest action is not checking. Put the phone away, leave the room, take a walk, return later. You don't need immediate certainty. Chapter 14. Your attention is sacred. Your attention is finite. Every notification asks for it. Every headline asks for it. Every argument asks for it. Every person's problem asks for it. If you give your attention away constantly, you lose access to your own mind. This is why boundaries around attention matter. You don't need to know everything. You don't need to respond to everything. You don't need to consume every opinion. You don't need to follow every development. You don't need to participate in every conversation. Choose. Ask, does this deserve my attention? If not, release it. Calmness requires space. You cannot create silence while constantly inviting noise. Chapter 15. The difference between awareness and obsession. Awareness notices. Obsession circles. Awareness asks, what happened? Obsession asks, what does it mean? Then, what if? Then, what if that means something else? Then, what if I missed something? The loop continues. Awareness ends with useful information. Obsession keeps reopening the case. Learn to close the case. Sometimes the answer is, I don't know. Sometimes, there's nothing more to investigate. Sometimes, I have enough information. That is not avoidance, it is completion. Chapter 16. When your mind demands a decision. Sometimes anxiety creates false urgency. Choose now. Decide now. Send the message. Leave immediately. Fix everything. But decisions made during emotional storms can create unnecessary damage. If the situation isn't urgent, give yourself time. Ask, would tomorrow's version of me choose differently? If yes, wait. Your future self deserves a voice. This doesn't mean endless procrastination. Set a deadline, gather information, then decide. Calmness isn't indecision, it's deliberate action. Chapter 17. The woman who can sit with discomfort. This may be the deepest skill, the ability to feel discomfort without immediately escaping. You're nervous, you stay. You're uncertain, you stay. You're embarrassed, you stay. You're lonely, you stay. You don't immediately reach for distraction. You don't immediately seek reassurance. You don't immediately create a solution. You let the emotion move through you. Emotions rise, then change, then fall. They are waves. You don't need to stop the ocean. You need to stop believing every wave will last forever. That is emotional endurance. Chapter 18. The quiet morning after the storm. There may come a morning when you notice something. Your phone is still there. Your problems are still there. Your future is still uncertain. But you're different. You don't immediately reach for the phone. You sit. You breathe. You look outside. You drink your coffee while it's warm. You don't need to know everything. You don't need everyone to approve. You don't need every question answered. You simply know, I can meet today. That's enough. Not forever. Today. That is how life becomes manageable. You stop carrying the entire future. You carry the next hour, then the next, then the next. Chapter 19. When calmness becomes power. Calmness changes how you communicate. You speak more slowly. You listen more carefully. You choose fewer words. You don't rush to defend yourself. You don't rush to attack. You don't rush to explain. You don't rush to agree. You think, then speak. People notice. Not because you're trying to appear powerful, because you're no longer leaking emotional energy everywhere. You don't need to prove that you're calm. You simply are more deliberate. This creates a different kind of presence. People feel it. You become harder to provoke, harder to rush, harder to manipulate, not because you're suspicious, because you're anchored. Chapter 20. You can be afraid and still be free. This may be the most important lesson. Freedom doesn't require fearlessness. If you wait until you're fearless, you'll wait forever. You can be afraid and still say what needs saying. You can be afraid and still leave. You can be afraid and still begin. You can be afraid and still sleep. You can be afraid and still choose wisely. Fear can sit beside you. It doesn't have to drive. Imagine fear sitting in the passenger seat. You acknowledge it, you hear it, but your hands remain on the wheel. That is the relationship you want, not fear must disappear. But fear can come with me. It doesn't decide where I go. Chapter 21. The day you stop fighting your own mind. There is another trap. You become anxious about being anxious. You notice your heart racing, then you panic about the racing. You notice your thoughts, then you fear the thoughts. You notice tension, then you worry about the tension. Now you're fighting the experience itself. Stop. You don't need to win against your mind. You need to understand it. Your mind produces thoughts. Some are useful, some are noise, some are fear, some are memory, some are imagination. Let them move. You don't have to personally approve every thought. You don't have to argue with every thought. You don't have to answer every thought. A thought can simply remain a thought. That is freedom. Chapter 22. Radical calm is built in small moments. You don't become calm during a crisis. You practice calm before the crisis. You practice when the phone is silent. You practice when someone annoys you. You practice when plans change. You practice when you don't know. You practice when you're waiting. You practice when someone misunderstands you. You practice when you want to react. Every small pause is training. Every deliberate breath is training. Every unanswered impulse is training. Every time you choose facts over stories, you train. Every time you choose the next useful action, you train. Then one day, something difficult happens, and you notice. You don't react immediately. You pause, you breathe, you think, you respond. The situation may still hurt, but you don't disappear inside it. That is progress. Chapter 23. The inner room. Imagine there is a room inside you, a quiet room. Nobody else has the key. Outside, the world can become loud. People can argue. Plans can collapse. News can change. Opinions can collide. But you can return there, not physically, mentally. You close your eyes. You breathe. You ask, what is mine to do? Then you act. This inner room is built through practice. It becomes easier to access. At first, you may only find it for seconds, then minutes, then longer. Eventually, you can carry it with you. You can walk through a crowded place and remain internally quiet. You can sit in a difficult conversation and stay present. You can hear bad news and pause before reacting. You can receive uncertainty without immediately creating a catastrophe. That is inner stability. Chapter 24. The last illusion. There is one illusion anxiety keeps selling. It says, once everything is okay, you will finally relax. But everything is never permanently okay. There will always be another uncertainty, another decision, another change, another unknown. If you postpone peace until life becomes perfectly safe, peace never arrives. So reverse the equation. Practice peace while life remains imperfect. Drink your coffee while problems remain unsolved. Take the walk while questions remain unanswered. Sleep while tomorrow remains uncertain. Laugh while the future remains unknown. Love while knowing nothing is permanent. This isn't denial, it's presence. You aren't pretending life is safe. You're refusing to waste the safe moments fearing unsafe ones. That is radically different. Chapter 25. The woman who doesn't need to know tomorrow. There is a quiet confidence in saying, I don't know what happens next. Not, I don't care. Not, Nothing matters. But I don't know, and I'll meet it when it arrives. That is enough. You don't need tomorrow's strength today. Tomorrow will bring tomorrow's circumstances. Today requires today's strength. Use today's strength today. Don't borrow tomorrow's problems. Don't pay interest on imaginary suffering. You already have enough to carry. Carry what is real. Chapter 26. When the old anxiety returns, it will return. Don't be surprised. Growth doesn't mean anxiety disappears forever. There will be difficult mornings. There will be sleepless nights. There will be uncertainty. There will be moments when old patterns return. Don't interpret that as failure. You are practicing. Return to the basics. What do I know? What am I imagining? What can I control? What needs action? What can wait? What belongs to someone else? What is the next useful step? Then breathe, again and again. You don't need a perfect response, you need a better response. That is enough. Chapter 27. The stillness that people notice. Eventually, people may notice. They may say, "You seem different." Maybe you are. You aren't reacting as quickly. You aren't explaining everything. You aren't checking constantly. You aren't panicking over every silence. You aren't trying to predict every outcome. You listen. You think. You decide. Then you move. This can look almost mysterious, but there is no mystery. You simply stop treating every thought like an emergency. You stop demanding certainty. You started trusting yourself. That is the whole transformation. Chapter 28. The final breath. So when anxiety comes tomorrow, don't run from it. Don't hate yourself for feeling it. Don't turn one anxious morning into an identity. Don't create 10 imaginary futures. Return. Feel your feet. Notice the room. Take a breath. Name the facts. Separate them from predictions. Ask what belongs to you. Then choose the next useful action. Nothing more. You don't need to solve everything. You don't need to know everything. You don't need to control everyone. You don't need to guarantee the outcome. You need to remain present. That is where your life is happening. Right here. In this room. In this breath. In this decision. In this quiet moment you almost missed. Anxiety will tell you to run ahead. Wisdom will tell you to stay. Stay. Let the future arrive in its own time. Let uncertainty remain uncertain. Let other people have their reactions. Let unanswered questions remain unanswered. Let yourself breathe. You are not required to solve tomorrow tonight. You are not required to understand everything today. You are not required to eliminate every uncomfortable feeling. You are required only to meet reality honestly. One moment at a time. One decision at a time. One breath at a time. And slowly, something changes. The room becomes quieter. The phone becomes less important. The future becomes less threatening. The unanswered question becomes tolerable. The silence becomes peaceful. You realize something. The world didn't become perfectly safe. You became more capable of meeting it. That is the difference. That is radical calm. Not the absence of storms, not the absence of fear, not the absence of uncertainty, but the presence of something stronger. A mind that can pause, a heart that can feel, a body that can breathe, a woman who can remain herself, even when everything around her changes. And perhaps that is the deepest form of Stoic strength, not becoming a stone, becoming an anchor. The storm can move, the waves can rise, the sky can darken, people can change, plans can collapse, the future can remain unknown, and still, you can remain, you can breathe, you can think, you can choose, you can stand, you can stay, you can become still, because calmness was never something the world had to give you. It was something you could practice creating, quietly, daily, deliberately, until one day, the same situation that once controlled you no longer does. And you finally understand, you don't need to control the storm. You only need to stop becoming the storm.